Most modern shooters don't release in good states.
Why do we fall, Bruce? So we can learn to pick ourselves up.
Like a lot of you growing up, the main games I played were Call of Duty and Halo. These games were greatly impactful to my childhood and taste in games in general. Through these and other games like Overwatch and Rainbow Six Siege, and yes, even Fortnite, I've made a lot of friends and forged a lot of memories that I'll keep with me for the rest of my life. For better or for worse, however, I don't play these games as much as I used to. Why not? Simply put, these games just became too successful.
What?
Confused? Let me explain. See, back when first-person shooter games were new ideas, developers were constantly incentivized to make games that were better than their last. Games that could compete with their peers, shooters that made you want to log in every single day. But now?
This campaign sucks! Oh my god.
Halo's been going through what feels like a perpetual rough patch for a decade now.
I'm not in control of the wins and losses!
And has established the foundation of this online action model as we know it.
These new half-baked games don't even try to innovate or make anything new or interesting, and they still rake in the cash. Not to mention, with every new entry, these games seem to become more and more buggy. Call of Duty is easily the worst offender of any of the modern first-person shooters still releasing content today. I could make a whole video about every single problem I have with the game. But to summarize, Call of Duty hasn't even tried to be good lately. Between an overabundance of microtransactions, a lack of visual identity or cohesion, completely overtuned SBMM systems, and a lack of community identity for what a Call of Duty game should be, Call of Duty is an utter mess.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Battlefield remains in a similar boat with one of the buggiest launches in recent memory with Battlefield 2042. Last remaining of the games I would like to talk about is Halo, and Halo Infinite was one of the biggest disappointments I've had with a game ever. But what came from Halo Infinite's failure? One of the best gaming comebacks I've witnessed in a while. With the release of Season 5 of Halo Infinite, the game has been right where it should have been at launch. Most of my friends are hopping back on the game, suddenly armor customization is getting to where it needs to be. 343 has even managed to make a max rank grind worth it with the inclusion of Master Chief's armor as a reward for completing all the ranks. The game is simply fun and full of content now, despite its terrible launch. What's my point with Halo? Halo had to fail before the devs realized that they needed to make a better game. And as far as I'm aware, I'm less familiar with this situation, but even Battlefield 2042 has seemed to make a decent comeback following its disastrous launch in 2021. You know what game franchise hasn't seen true failure in years? Call of Duty. You know what game series is still bad every year? Call of Duty.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
These modern shooters keep coming out in terrible, unfinished states, and we keep buying them. Because of this, publishers and developers aren't seeming to feel the pressure to make these games fun and playable the first time. Instead, what we get are half-baked products at launch, and if we're lucky, they'll come back and fix the game in post like 2 years later. This isn't enough though. For real change, something drastic needs to happen. I want to see the next half-baked Call of Duty titled Bomb, the next nearly unplayable Battlefield game put the future of the franchise in jeopardy, the next content-devoid Halo flop harder than even Halo Infinite did. Why? Because the only way publishers will stop pushing half-baked, bug-riddled, content-like garbage onto us, the players, is if we stop buying them. If every year a new Call of Duty comes out and has all the same issues the last game did and it flops, what's gonna happen? The people responsible for pushing these games out are gonna be forced to make better games. Games that people actually want to play. And the same goes for every other game I've already mentioned in this video. If publishers and developers refuse to make good games, then the games they're making need to fall.
Why do we fall, sir? So that we can learn to pick ourselves up.
Now, this is going to sound a little hypocritical, but I don't want these games to have to fail. If we could get great first-person shooters without needing the games we love to fail before they can rise, it would be far better. Who doesn't want a great new game with no drawbacks to sink their teeth into? Unfortunately, however, based on the way the past few years of first-person shooters have gone, I just don't know if we can get that without the first-person shooter market as we know it going through massive and tumultuous change. The shooters I've mentioned have obviously gotten too big to fail in the eyes of executives, publishers, and developers. The only way that us disgruntled shooter players will ever get more quality games from these series that we love is to make it clear to those people making the games that we won't settle for these lazy cash grab products. And unfortunately, the only way to achieve this is to, well, not buy the games. Luckily though, there are some first-person shooters that are coming out that are showing real promise. The finals beta from a while ago still has me wanting more, and the network test for XDefiant did show a lot of promise. These two games share something in common as well. They both have something to prove, and you can tell by the quality of both games that the people making these games are hungry for success and trying their hardest to get our attention. And you know what? It's working. They have mine and many others' attention as we patiently wait for what we hope is a new era of fun and fresh first-person shooters. If the shooter market were to crash as we know it, I think it would trigger a renaissance of first-person shooter games. A renaissance in which games like the finals take over the market from Call of Duty and Battlefield. This, I think, would force those franchises to try and find better ways to get a hold of our attention that aren't predatory microtransaction systems and buggy, copy-pasted gameplay from its predecessor. I say all this about first-person shooters not because I hate the genre, but because I want to love it like I used to. Unfortunately though, if the makers of these games refuse to change on their own, then I'm afraid they'll just have to fall so they can learn to pick themselves back up.